thesis writing in sciences. They are divided into 4 sessions. So someone may ask, what are the importance of thesis writing? I must add, or I want to refresh ourselves. We know, but I want to add that thesis writing comes from a number of experiments. Therefore, in doing experiments, we embark on adding our findings to existing knowledge or new knowledge on the subject area. We also, through thesis writing or experiments, we also discover solutions to the numerous problems of mankind. Also, it shows your proficiency in academic research, both oral and written. And in addition, it also shows your scientific knowledge, wherever field that you find yourself, wherever area that you are doing, it shows how competent you are. And in addition, lastly, but not the least, in the course of writing thesis, we also learn to improve our information retrieval skills. This skill is very, very essential. And all these skills that you are going to learn from your thesis writing are key skills that are required for your success in the near future, as far as your working life is concerned. So let's talk briefly about research plan. Research plan is basically a blueprint of your intention, or research proposal. It's just basically a blueprint of your intention. Why do you need to write? Thesis research plan demonstrates your vision and aspirations. As I said, it's a blueprint of your intention. So when you have a research plan, it tells you what you intend doing in future, what you intend doing today, what you intend doing in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, 4 months, and the rest. It also helps you to see the overall structure. What are some of the things that I must look out for? What are some of the things I must search for in my introduction? What are some of the things that I must read on in my methodology before I go to the lab? Interestingly, most of our labs, or most labs in China, everything is written in Chinese. So if you, the student, you are not proactive, you don't associate with the Chinese so that you can learn how to translate, you have not read papers, you go to the lab and you mess up. So there's a need for us to have a plan. It also helps you to examine most important parts. Like, just as I mentioned, literature review helps you to know the progress of the area that you want to handle. So if every day there's a let's say every 2 weeks, there's a publication in your area and you are not reading, you may be using 1925 methodology, which may not be all that reliable in present time. It also helps you to avoid common mistakes. A lot of students focus on problems rather than coming out with solutions. They'll be highlighting the problems in the thesis, they'll be highlighting the problems in their experiments. But if you read wide, if you have a plan, the problem that you encounter, somebody might have had solution before. So if you read, you may come up with a solution. It also gives you a milestone with respect to time and activity. Your research plan or research proposal will give you what exactly are you supposed to do in the next 2 weeks. If you are not able to do in the next 2 weeks, what are the probable consequences? Are you going to defer your program? Are you going to extend your program to 4 years or 5 years or 10 years, just as some people go through in Ghana? So we have seen the relevance of research plan. What are the basic activities that one must do in order to come up with a research plan or research proposal? First, you should have a general idea about the area you want to work on. You should have a general idea about the topic you want to work on. Interestingly, in China, most of the topics are imposed on students. But if you, the student, you have read wide, you can also express your opinion. But at the end of the day, the final decision lies with your supervisor and then the college and then the thesis approval committee. So you should have a general topic. After having a general topic, you need to perform literature review. You perform literature review to identify the gaps in the various topics, in the various research that people have done around that area. After identifying the gaps, then you'll be able to specify your topic. And after specifying your topic, then from your reading, you should be able to identify problems in the previous work that people have done. And you write brief introduction. But before you do, I want to suggest a strategy that I call SPQR. SPQR. S means situation. Whilst you are reading, you should be able to understand the situation of the topic that you want to do. What are some of the things that people have done? What are some of the things that people are working on now? Because some people, if you go to ResearchGate, some people have something like preprint or project updates. You'll be able to know what other people are doing elsewhere. So it will also help you to develop a strategy for your work. And also the P there stands for problems. Whilst you are reading, whatever you are doing, you should also be looking for problems in other people's work. Somebody did a work that the person focused on only one location, like those of you doing breeding and genetics related or agronomy related. If somebody did evaluation in only 2 environments, this may be a challenge because the environments are somehow limited. But if you read and you have enough time, you have a lot of environment, you'll be able to develop a solution to overcome that 2 environment that a lot of people are reporting. Also, whilst reading literature, you should be asking yourself a lot of questions. So the Q there stands for questions. You should be able to ask yourself a lot of questions from the literature that you'll be reading or the literature you are reading. And from there, you should develop a strategy. You should develop a mechanism. You should develop a blueprint so that you'll be able to help come up with responses to the questions that you read in other people's work. So the out there represent response or responses. Please, this abbreviation is very vital in the course of my presentation. I will just be mentioning the abbreviation, so please take note. In the introduction, after reading all the literature review and other things that you do, you should be able to write a brief problem statement in your introduction. And then you also brief summary of literature and a concise description of gap in the literature. After reading, you try to, let's say, in my field, breeding and genetics, a lot of people do QTL mapping or linkage and association mapping, but they fail to predict candidate genes. And some people also predict candidate genes, but they don't validate. So what can you do as a way to overcome some of this consistent approach that a lot of people are using? Probably you may develop QRT-PCR. You may do functional validation like CRISPR-Cas9 over expression, virus-induced gene silencing, that is VIGAS, and other validational approaches. So in your method, in your introduction, you should be able to state clearly what you intend doing to overcome some of these potholes or loopholes in earlier research. I must add that in the course of reading, in your introduction, you should also develop research hypotheses or research questions. But we in sciences, mostly we don't write research questions. We may develop hypotheses, out of which you have to come up with your objectives, the general objectives, and then the specific objectives. After that, you need to also determine the method of investigation. What are the methods that you need to embark on, or what experimental procedures are you supposed to do or to carry on to come up with the responses that you have found to other people's questions, to the questions that you raised in other people's work. So you also have to develop a method, that is materials and method in our case. And then from there, you have to design you have to do your research design. You cannot just say you are going to do, let's say, QTL mapping or marker trait association, that is JOAS, without knowing how to go about it. So you have to design your experiment or your research. Like, you need to know how many locations you want to use. You need to know how many germplasm you want to use. You need to know the phenotype you want to collect. So from there, in some cases, you may need to come up with budget. But those of us or those of you in China, normally we don't care about budget. Everything will be catered for by your funding agency. But that is, let's say in my case, but most of you, I'm sure most of you are on scholarship. So everything will be budgeted, all the expenses will be catered for. It's just a matter of you coming up with a plan. After all this, at the tail end of your proposal or your research plan, you need to also have timelines. What are some of the things I need to do tomorrow? What are some of the things I need to do in the next 5 months? You should have a plan. At least you should have a plan for about 1 year, and then break it down to a plan for about 6 months. And maybe every month you may break it down. The lab where I worked, we used to have meetings on every week, and every week each student must give updates, your progress, and then your future plans, and then some of the challenges that you encountered, so that we learn from each other. So this is example of my reading references. This one is not all that in good shape, but it's just to show what are some of the ways that you can use to become more efficient in whatever that you are doing. So this, I was reading papers on genome-wide association study. So each paper that I read, you can see the reference, the one highlighted in blue, or the one with the font size blue. That one shows, it tells you the reference. So the reference will be listed at the bottom. And then the method or the population. So here, okay. So here is talking about the method, the software, other information that you can carve from wherever paper that you are reading. So that if you are supposed to write a paper, you don't need to go and search for all papers again. You have a summary. If you can see from the point 11 or number 11 that I have appended a Word file. If you click on that Word file, it will give you a summary of that paper. So anytime I'm writing a paper, I don't need to go and search for all those papers again on the internet or wherever, but I can just rely on this summary to write whatever paper that I want to write. Just as you can see from the extreme right, search on, I have written some of the things that I need to learn from this paper. So the list of these genomic tools include assembly tool. So all this, it guides me what I have to do after reading this paper. This is a classical example of timeline with activities. This was one of my presentation timelines. So as you can see, the literature review spans through. Even the day of your defense, there may be a need for you to read and the latest publication to abreast yourself. So literature review or literature reading, it doesn't end. It will end the day you are put in your grave. Even when you come home, you are also reading. So literature review is more or less a continuing activity. So you indicate, and then some of the activities that you have to do. So you can see from the last but one, that thesis writing. I had a plan. When am I supposed to finish my thesis? So the plan was to finish by April. And by some of these guides, it supported me to complete within the time frame. I completed in 3 years exactly. It's not that I'm superhuman being, no. But some of these strategies will go a long way to help each and every one. So let's zoom into our main focus, thesis writing in sciences. What are the types of thesis writing? We have monograph format, and then we have article compilation format. Or the article compilation format, it could be also named as objective-based compilation format. So we are going to dwell more on the article-based compilation format because this is the format for almost all sciences. So what is the first chapter in this compilation format? The first chapter, some schools may call it general introduction. Some schools may call it literature review. So this literature review is purely literature review. But within the literature review, you should come up with the problem statement, objectives, that's the general and the specific, the significance of the study. And then you should also give us, or you need to also give a technical route or the flow chart. This is a pictorial presentation of the things that you intend doing. What are the connections among the objectives in helping you achieve the general objective? So we should also pay attention to the technical route. The Chinese professors, they are highly, highly interested in technical route. This is a classical example of my technical route for my PhD thesis. You can see I embarked on 3 thematic research areas. That is linkage mapping, association mapping, bioinformatics, including gene functional validation. So anyone with a technical background in my field, if you pick this, you can understand what the thesis is all about. And this one, out of this flow chart, I published 4 papers. 1 paper is almost ready for submission, and several others are also on the pipeline. So such things are going to guide you to do whatever you want to do. So the left-hand side, the 2 biparental population, that one basically is for the linkage mapping, and the natural population is for the association mapping. And the other side, I don't want to bore you with some of these things, because it could be that not all of you are working in fields that are related to my field. So it's just giving you the connections among all the works that I did, and then each one must be connected to the general objective. The chapter 2, just as I mentioned, is basically research-based or experiment-based or objective-based or article-based or publishable article-based. So the chapter 2 is basically your experiment 1. Your experiment 1, what you did in the experiment 1. You need to give brief introduction of your chapter 2, brief introduction. And from brief introduction, you have to state the objective of that chapter. You have to give the objective of that chapter. In some cases, you may have to give other specific objectives in that chapter. So we should take note. And then you move on to materials and method. You move on to discussions, and then results, and then the last session, discussions. So all the other chapters must follow suit. The chapter 3, the chapter 4, and then chapter 5 may be different depending on the number of experiments that you did. If you did 6 diverse experiments, then you are likely to have about 7 chapters. But if you did about 3, you may have 5 chapters. Chapter 1 may be literature review. Chapter 2 may be objective 1. Objective 2 will be chapter 3, and so on. The last chapter 5 will be your conclusion and recommendations. So I will escape this. Yes, the chapter 5 is basically your conclusions and recommendations. So here you must give brief summary of your results, and then you have to give conclusions based on your objectives and your recommendations. So we want to pick each portion and highlight them briefly. Abstract. What are some of the general issues that we need to talk or we need to know about abstract? Basically, your introduction, your results, your discussions, you should remember S, P, Q, R. You should remember these 4 abbreviations. The abstract gives overview of your thesis. So you should write very good abstract, because normally if your abstract is weak, your reviewer is likely not to waste time on your thesis. Likewise, any paper that you want to publish. So you should be able to highlight the key findings in your abstract. Basically, abstract is written in past tense. This study found that it was discovered that our study revealed that, so it should be written in past tense. And also we should know abstract in a whole, if you divide abstract by 100, like divide them into 100, brief introduction should take about 25%. So you should give a brief introduction, probably not lengthy one, but start with probably the problem statement, or just bring something like a teaser. Maybe the world's population is escalating. Therefore, there's a need to apply all available techniques into breeding in order to meet food demand in the nearest future. In this case, the present study was conducted to determine the effect of NPK on growth and yield of, let's say soybean. And from there, you need to give brief materials and method. That one may account for about 25%. And then your key findings should be about 35%. And then the 15% will be implication of your research. I must add that in China, you need to write English abstract and then Chinese abstract. With the Chinese abstract, don't worry your head so much at the beginning. Complete your work. When you complete and you have very good abstract, you can use Baidu or other platform to translate. But the translation may not be valid. You have to give to your friends who can read Chinese to help you edit. I was fortunate. After translating, my professor picked it up that he want to revise as his contribution to my work, you know. So you need to know that some of these things are not on the PPT. So please, you need to take note. Also, in your abstract, you need to avoid undefined abbreviations. You cannot use abbreviations which have not been defined or which are not internationally accepted. Because don't assume that anyone who is reading your thesis may be familiar with those abbreviations. So you need to define abbreviations. Also, as I said, we need to remember SPQR strategy in your abstract. What are some of the things that you did that help to overcome the problems in other people's work? What are some of the questions that you are asking, that you are developing a strategy to help us get responses to the questions that you raise in other people's work? Introduction. Introduction basically gives the frontier of your study area. That is the past progress, the present, and the future direction. So introduction tells how much a student or a scholar has read. If we write any scanty introduction, it gives general information about you, probably how lazy you are or how you are not current in your field of study. So you need to read more to know the frontier, know the direction that your field is going. And then introduction should have problem statement. The problem statement, you can obtain the problem statement from several sources, but remember, formulate it according to what you are doing. Don't just go and copy from elsewhere. Because somebody said QTL mapping is very important. It helps you to find the candidate genes. There is limited work on my crop. Therefore, this work is relevant. I mean, you should try to phrase it to make it catchy so that you draw the attention of the reader or the reviewer. Then objectives. You need to clearly give a SMART objective. If I say SMART, it should be specific, it should be measurable, it should be attainable, it should be realistic, it should be time-bound. You know that your PhD program, you have maximum of 4 years. If you go beyond 4 years, you are going to pay for your fees. You are going to pay for your accommodation. Your stipend may end. Your insurance may end. So there's a need for you to give realistic objectives. There's a need for us to give realistic objectives in our introduction. Also, introduction is basically written in present tense, but we use present perfect tense to report previous works. according to Kakari 2020, it was discovered that blah, 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 blah. Then you move on. But when you are writing, let's say prime breeding prime breeding offers solution to numerous food and nutritional securities of humanity. This is present tense. So we should try not to mix tenses up. Also, avoid undefined abbreviations. Avoid undefined abbreviations. You cannot use any abbreviation in your introduction whilst you have not defined those abbreviations. It makes reading boring and very difficult. Also, remember your SPQR strategy. Let's talk briefly about materials and method. Clearly define your experimental design before the start of your experiment. Please, this step is very, very, very essential. Most people are very weak in statistical, in experimental design and statistical analysis. And at the end, they may end up designing experiments that are not very good. So anything that you want to do, if you know you are deficient, consult. You can ask your friends in your group. You can ask your professor. You can also seek assistance from elsewhere if your professor will agree that if you are allowed to bring other people on board as co-authors. You need to also use and reference accepted procedure. You need to remember, you are not, I've been telling my friends that there's nothing new under the sun nowadays. But the point is how smart, how intelligent, how smart and intelligent that you are, that you'll be able to avoid copy and paste. But something like materials and method, in order for you not to have high similarity index, some of the methods don't write the full one because some of them are very difficult to replace or to paraphrase. You can reference according to the method or according to the methods used by Kakari. We determined the candidate genes. Briefly, we use the reference genome, blah, 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 blah. Then we move on. Don't go and copy that portion from Kakari's work. As when you go and run for plagiarism test, your score will be very, very high. And it may call for you to revise. You may revise till your time has ended and they will tell you, Master, you have to leave the dormitory. So you should reference procedures. Don't always lift procedure, because something like DNA isolation. DNA isolation is a standardized method. We have different methods. But the methods, it could be that the first person who developed that method, you can reference that method to avoid duplication of that writing. Also, if new procedure is going to be used for your work, clearly state the steps for others who may want to repeat your study. Don't forget, all the works we are doing, our works are going to be reference point for future generation. Or maybe even tomorrow, somebody in your lab may want to continue your work. So you need to state all the methods clearly as possible. If possible, give references so that if that person wants to go and read, the person can go and read. DNA was isolated based on the method developed by this, and then quote the reference. Remember that. Also, avoid undefined abbreviations. This session also, you need to write your methodology or your research method, materials and method. Is better to write before the start of experiment. It serves as a guide. It also offers you opportunity to update your materials and method. In the course of doing the experiment, you might have tried one method, you failed. You might have tried it 2 or 3 times, you failed. You need to maybe use another method. Because you have not read, that same method is not giving you results. Don't waste much time on it. Probably try another method. But before you try that another method, you need to write. You need to know what is inside there so that it will help you to follow appropriately to get the data that you want. Also, we need to collect all possible data during experiment. Please, I must add this. After experiment, you cannot go back to pick data that you needed to pick. So for me, what I tell my friends, what I tell people that I interact with on such issue is that collect all possible data, even data that you think you don't need, collect. You can even use it to write paper later. Collect all possible data, collect them in the course of experiment. Because if the experiment ends, you cannot have access to your experimental materials and your experimental conditions again, unless you go and repeat your work. Also, remember to take photos in the course of your experiment, because some of the experiments you may do, you will fail. You may do several, you fail. During your presentation in your research group, you can show evidence that this experiment, I did it, we did, but we got to this point, there was contamination. I remember I was doing tissue culture at CRISPR-Cas9. In the course of CRISPR-Cas9, there was a time I needed to use one chemical to add to the media. I was busy on another work, so I asked somebody to mix those chemicals for me. The person mixed up. In the course of the work, all my media got contaminated. Who will believe me? So I have to take pictures. And during my presentation, I projected that due to this problem, there was contamination. That point, I may not expose the person who contaminated it, who caused the contamination, but I can show the picture. In that case, I'll be responsible for the contamination because I sought for assistance from the person. Also, use past tense to describe what was done during the research. DNA was isolated following the procedure outlined by this. The germplasm were evaluated across 5 environments. Phenotype such as plant height, and the rest. You try to highlight those ones that are very essential. Also, choose appropriate statistical tools and tests. Remember, if you want to come up with hypotheses or you want to come up with as part of your objectives, you should be able to tell us what are the differences in terms of treatment. So you need to choose appropriate experimental test or statistical tests you want to use, and then statistical tools you want to use. I must add that it's better you learn some of these things yourself, because if somebody do for you, you may end up struggling to understand. But if you do them yourself, you can appreciate your work, you can appreciate your results. But if you know you have deficiency in statistics, don't waste your time. Learn the basic aspect you need to know. And then in the course of statistical analysis, you can also consult. But all statistical analysis should be clearly defined at the onset of the experiment so that you know exactly what you are doing. You cannot finish the experiment and go and tell somebody who wants to analyze for you that you want to analyze your experiment in a factorial experimental design form, whilst you know your layout was in a simple RCBD. So these are some of the issues that we need to take note. Also, results. I'll talk briefly on figures and tables. We usually use past tense to present results obtained, and we use present tense to refer to tables and figures. Table 1 gives the outcome of effect of fertilizer on plant height or plant growth or whatever. And then every table and figure must be able to stand on their own. Don't forget, the table that you present in your thesis or in your article that you want to publish, if I pick that table, I should be able to understand everything in the table without reading your main text. So there's a need for you to add what we call footer or legend. You should be able to define, maybe you have about 4 columns. The first column is ID. What is the meaning of ID? Don't expect me to know the meaning of ID. Though I know, but don't expect that I will know the meaning of ID. So there's a need for you to define what is the meaning of ID. So you can give it superscript A. And at the end of the table, you will give the meaning of ID. ID means maybe germplasm used or identification. I mean, any description that you give to help your readers understand, you should be able to give. And then also write clearly headings and captions. Your headings, your title. I remember last night I was helping a friend to review his article. The third reviewer, he had 3 reviewers. The third one raised issue with headings. And at the end of the day, we have to rewrite all the headings again because it wasn't making sense. The content is very rich. The tables, the figures are very rich. But in terms of the title or the heading, it's not clearly capturing the information in the figure or in the table. So you can use SI units of measurement and design the table or figure for easy reading. I must add that always try as much as possible to do all your tables in Excel. Excel will allow you to format it any way you want. Don't use Word format to insert table, number of columns, number of rows. It's at times difficult to manage. You can use Excel to design your tables. Also, every table and figure must be referenced in the text with its numbers or with their numbers. You need to know that without referencing a table or a figure in the main thesis or in the main manuscript, there's no need to mention those figures in your, or there's no need to put those figures or tables in your write-up. So you must note. Remember to reference each table and figure in your text. Also, in recent years, most of the publishing houses, they have different formats if you want to submit your figures for publication as part of your manuscript. So you should learn to use software like Origin, GraphPad Prism, and then R. These softwares allow you to draw 3D plus. They are very beautiful. You can export them to any format that you want. Is it PNG? Is it PNG or other format? There are several formats. Each journal has a format. But don't forget, in the course of writing your thesis, you can use, if you are using the word file, there's option at the top there, insert. There's a sub menu called insert picture. You can use that insert picture so that the picture quality will not reduce. It will not reduce. So you can use those portions or that portion to insert quality pictures. Even when you compress, when you try to reduce the size, the quality will still be maintained. If you use software like Origin, Graph Prism, R, and other software that could give you 3D plus. Also, we need to learn to use composite figure to reduce the number of figures in our writing. You know, you have about 5 figures that are presenting the common, that are giving information on just 2 or 3 paragraphs. You may decide to embed them as composite figure, so that at the end of the day, it will be maybe figure 2, but figure 2, you have figure 2, A, B, C, D, and the rest. I will show classical example. This is an example. This is a composite figure. This article was published in 1st September or so, yes, as part of some of the works that I did whilst I was in China. You can see we have 6 figures here. Assuming I want to present each one individually, I will have had 6 figures, which will increase the volume, and then also it will make reading boring. And don't forget, the titles or the caption should be able to give full meaning of what you have presented. So the A and B gives the seed size and range of 100 seed weight of selected genotypes for QRT-PCR. So the A and B gives that. So after reading this, you should be able to understand what have been presented on this composite graph. And then this is another composite graph. It's also in that paper that was published recently. You can see Here we have about 12 different figures. Assuming we are to present this individually, imagine the number of pages you will have taken. But you'll be able to image all this on PPT, on PowerPoint, if you have saved the format of your figure in the right format. Or another step is that if you don't know much about how to save figures in different formats, you can use WeChat. If your WeChat is working on your laptop, use Alt-A. Alt-A will allow you to snip the figure and then put it in your WeChat account, put it on your WeChat chat, either file or whatever, and then send. After sending, then it will be converted as an image format. Then copy it into the folder wherever you are keeping your files. But the best one is that if you use software like Graph Prism, if you use software like R, you'll be able to save in the format that you want. So this figure, there's no need to bore you much about this figure. I just want to present the idea that there's a need for us to use composite figures in our writings. Discussions. We use present tense to explain the significance of our results. Our study pinpoints that soybean yield is dependent on the availability of phosphorus. Okay, so you try to explain, you don't mix tenses. Also, we use past tense to summarize findings. Our study found that 25% of yield increment is as a result of P fertilizer application. So we should try not to mix tenses. Also, relate your results to earlier published articles. Please, discussion is not about your results. Don't go and write your results. Don't go and highlight your results. Don't be talking about your results again, but relate your results to earlier published research articles. Also, cite your tables and figures where necessary. This will help readers to understand and also cross-check the figures, cross-check the tables. So as I've already mentioned, don't repeat your results. Avoid undefined abbreviations. Avoid undefined abbreviations. Avoid undefined abbreviations. I've mentioned this in our previous slides. Conclusion and recommendation. Basically, it gives a summary of the main findings of your work, the major implications of your work, and then point out any limitations. Like in my case, I targeted, during my PhD, I targeted working on seed-related traits. So seed-related traits, I did QTL mapping, association mapping, I did some bioinformatics analysis. After that, I mined some candidate genes. So those candidate genes, some of them were knocked out by CRISPR-Cas9 technology. Some of the genes were overexpressed by overexpression technology. Some of the genes were silenced by gene silencing approach, you know. So, but because of time, I could not evaluate these traits for the seed traits. I could not evaluate these lines for the seed trait. So what I did was I evaluated them in hydroponics, that is in the lab, in media. So let's say I'll prepare media, but I'll remove P, or I'll replace P with another element. I'll replace Fe, ion, with another element. So at the end of the day, I'll have more or less laboratory evaluation in terms of some parameters that I can use to make references, or I can use to make conclusion as far as my work is concerned. So out of the limit, you need to point out the limitation. Probably in my case, I said that due to time factor, I could not evaluate these lines and for seed-related traits. However, I recommend for future evaluation. Simple, I'm done. I must add, a colleague, one friend of mine, she stayed in the lab for 4 years. She was referred by one of the reviewers. Just one reviewer failed her. She has to wait. And then after we finish, some of her had to take her work up, help her to overcome some of these challenges. Now she has submitted. She was supposed to get her certificate by September, you know. So try to we are sharing some of these things so that you avoid the errors that some people are making or some people made to help you overcome some of the challenges. Also, a combination of things is to highlight past research and future directions. Just as I said I recommend that some people, future study should evaluate these lines for seed-related traits, of which somebody is working on as a collaboration. Somebody is currently working on them as collaboration. So as soon as the person finishes, I'm going to share the same co-author. The person will be one, I'll be one. We'll share the same authorship, you know. So you try to apply some of these basic steps to help you overcome some of the minor issues that may come up. I must add this, plagiarism, academic theft. Please, don't say you are too smart. Just look at the 3 examples. Kenyatta University revokes PhD, a lecturer's PhD over plagiarism. This one, a lecturer in South Africa wrote to the university that he has seen the thesis of that professor in Kenyatta University, and he copied portion of the thesis without acknowledgement. So that person's PhD was revoked. His lecturership was revoked. All his entitlements have ended. So all the years he wasted, he has to go back and use his MSc or MPhil. And even with this tag on you, who will even give you fair hearing to come and teach or to come and do whatever, to come and do research? Once we know your background, you are just full of copying, you know? So you need to take note. Haruna Idrusu. Haruna, I guess all of you know Haruna Idrusu, minority leader in parliament now. His MPhil was also revoked by Legon because of plagiarism. There are many more examples. I cannot say all. So you need to pay attention. Don't think that you are being smart over your professor. In China, before your work is sent for external review, they have their own plagiarism software. I was told you need to have about, is it 2.5 or 5% similarity? Sorry. I got 0.5. My roommate ran his, he got 1.5. So there are skills to overcome some of these things. I said earlier that there's nothing new under this sun, but your ability to play around, your ability to do your own things in your own way will help you overcome some of these things. So learn to paraphrase and acknowledge sources. Avoid copy and paste. Use plagiarism checker. I must add that NUGS-Hangzhou, last year I did presentation with them on how to check for plagiarism. I have been invited also, maybe on the 6th, I'll also present again to the new batch of students who have come. We have several software. We have Authenticate, and then we have Turnitin. I must add that Turnitin is a paid account. I have that account. So if anyone may need that, you just pay a peanut. I'm not advertising myself, organizers, please. You just pay a peanut. And then after running, if we need to guide you to overcome those portions that will be highlighted, I can also support you. Also, references is one of the headaches of students or researchers. What I used to do, or even now I'm doing, is that I use EndNote. Another time I have another laptop I use Mendeley. So anything I'm doing, I know which laptop is going to. I mean, there are some programs that I run, I cannot use one laptop. Others I use other laptops. So what I do is that I've created a library for each of my readings and writings. So if you pick my laptop, my recent paper, you see 100 seed weight Jinwas. You see all the references. You also have the chance to attach the references to those libraries. Let's say you have cited Kakari 2019A. You can download Kakari 2019A and then attach to your reference cited in the library, so that anytime you want to read, no need to go to the internet or no need to go and search for Kakari A in your laptop. Just go to the references. You can see quickly. Also, most of the software are free. Also, paid ones are available. Something like EndNote. EndNote is not free software, but I must add that by Kululu way, we have the crack way, we have the crack version. So please, if you don't know how to use any of the references software, please learn from a friend. They are very, very useful, because you may send the thesis to your professor. Your professor may tell you the referencing style is wrong. You may send your paper for publication. Each paper, each journal, each publishing house, their referencing style. You cannot be doing everything manual. You cannot do everything manual. So we need to learn the referencing software. You can learn one. It's not compulsory to learn all. There are so many videos on YouTube. You can learn them. But maybe if you want somebody to open up to you, you can also learn from others. And then you need to, I must add that the referencing software allows you for style management. As I said, each journal, each university, I mean, anything that you are doing, each person has it or her, his or each institution has their own referencing style. So you need to know. You should try as much as possible to avoid old references. Probably beyond 10 years, try to avoid them. But if they are very classical, like the person who discovered DNA, the person who proposed Mendelian theory, the first paper that that person published, you cannot do without. You cannot go and write Kakari 2020 because I cited that paper. No, you need to cite the source. Also, minimize citing of several references for one idea. Some people, just one sentence, they may cite more than 3 lines as references. You should try to avoid that. Try as much as possible to avoid that. Also, check references manually to avoid citation errors, such as errors in year and then author's name. At times, some software, if you are just copying it outright or you are just clicking citation from the online, you may end up citing Benjamin Kakari instead of Kakari 2019. You may cite it as Benjamin 2019. They are 2 different names because all my publications go with my surnames. So we need to also cross-check manually. What I normally do is that before I cite, you may use Google Scholar, but in China, if you don't have VPN or you don't use Epic browser, you may be limited in using. So in China, you may use Xueshan Badu. Xueshan Badu is another form of Google in China. It can cite, but it can mix up. The references, it could be 2019, but it could cite it at 2018. So there's a need for you to check them manually. Also, avoid citing articles published in predatory journals. The more citation you give to predatory journals, the more credits, the more popular you make them to be. So you try as much as possible to avoid citing articles published in predatory journals. These are some of the referencing software. I know how to use Mendeley. I know how to use EndNote. There are many of them. So you try. But I said for EndNote, I know it's a paid, but by some quack way, we have the crack version. Thank you very much for your time. And then moderator, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kakari, for this insightful education given to us this evening. We are much grateful. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gotten to the question and answers section. So if you have any question, please you raise your hand and I will mention your name to ask your question. And doctor will answer every question. After that, the next person will also ask his or her question. And you can also write in the chat section and I'll read it for you for doctor to answer it. So ladies and gentlemen, So, Doctor, somebody's question is, how does okay. Hello?
Yes.
How does plagiarism affect thesis work that is a compilation of your publication? How does plagiarism affect thesis work that is a compilation of your publication? So there's a
Very
question
good.
from Elvis.
Very good. In the part of as part of your thesis compilation, you write I don't know whether to say a chapter called publications. So in the publications, you need to state the chapter in which that publication is. So when they are running, they will take it into consideration. So let's say your chapter 2 is your publication 1. So you just, when you list your publication, the first publication, Kakari, bra, 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 then bracket, part of chapter, or in chapter 2. So when they are running, they will take into consideration. Thank you.
Okay. Vivo Y66, your hands is up. You can ask your question. Vivo Y66. Hello, Vivo Y66. Okay, doctor, another question. What did you mean by a predatory journal? What do you mean by predatory journal from Vivo Y66?
Thank you very much. For China, let me put it, for China, predatory journals are journals which are not recommended by your university. If you dare publish your article in journal that is not accredited, that is not approved, you cannot graduate. So in my case, I call them SCI journals because those are my targets when I was in China. But currently, let's say now that we are in Ghana, in terms of targeting, you may not go for higher impact factor in SCI, but other journals that are accepted by your institution, you may target them. There are several publishing houses that they don't exist. They are just virtual. They are just there to dupe people. You submit your article today, tomorrow they will tell you, oh, pay this and it will be published in the next day. That should give you clue that those journals are predatory. So before you cite, some of the predatory journals is even difficult to cite them. You cannot even find them on the referencing platform. So you try as much as possible to check whether those journals are approved journals before you cite them. Thank you.
Okay, doctor, a follow-up question on that. That is, can you list some of the predatory journals? Can you list some of the predatory journals?
Predatory journals, there are many. If you wouldn't mind, after presentation, I will share a list of predatory journals, probable predatory journals with you. I don't have all of them in mind, but I have a folder that contains a lot, and you'll be able to check. Especially in Africa, the leading country with predatory journals are in Nigeria. Nigeria, they have a lot. Somebody will just sit in his room. Even Ghana, they cited. If I share the list, you can check. Ghana, we have a lot of them. We have some of them which are predatory. You may not know that those journals are even in Ghana, though you are a Ghanaian. Thank you.
Okay, this is from Keep Focus. He said, Doc, can you share your PPT on this presentation to us? I think Doctor will make it available for us so that we can have it. Yes. Okay. Yes. And from HP to saying, what is the minimum words for master thesis? What is the minimum words for master's thesis, Doc?
For me to give a specific answer, maybe I will say no. I will say better. Please consult your faculty or your college, because we don't have a common standard that the PhD should have this, master should have this, but it depends on your supervisor and your college. Thank you.
Okay, please keep your questions coming as Doctor has finished with his presentation. He will answer the questions one after the other. So please, if you are there and you have a question, you raise your hand and I'll call you, or you write in the comment section. Vivo Y6s, please, you can put your hand down because your question has been answered. Please keep your questions coming. If you're ready online too, you can mention your name and I'll give you the floor to ask your question. As you know, I cannot see any hands up now. And okay, Zach, what you can ask your question now, Zach.
Okay.
Zach, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, please.
All
You can
right.
ask.
First of all, have to thank Doc for such a great presentation. I think I really enjoyed it. Please, Doc, my question is, assuming I'm a master student and about to undertake my research, and then my supervisor is like, he has a lot of data, like he has done some previous works probably 4 years back that you can rely on. You don't have to do another, or you don't have much time to do an experiment, and decides to hand over the data to you and you work on. Please, what's the implication of this? Assuming I have to study my PhD after my master's degree and do not have any knowledge on how to undertake experiment or to perform this kind of experiment, what will be the effect, and what advice can you give towards this? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome. It does happen in China. Most of the professors, they have so much data, but because of language and other challenges, so they may share data with you and you can use. But
yes,
in the course of writing, you need to acknowledge the source. I mean, this work was done in 2014. Okay, so in 2014, 2014 you were not there. As Dr. Baumia said, you and I were not there. So you acknowledge that this work was done in 2014 or 2012 or however. So far as your professor approved for you to use, you can use. But as you go ahead, how those experiments were conducted, it will also pose a challenge to you because you may not know how to do. But in every situation, there's a way out. You just have to learn, work hard, learn from other people who are doing works in the lab, and then it will also help you to empower yourselves, to help to do future works yourselves. But I must add that we need to associate, not associate in the wrong sense, but we need to relate to the Chinese, because the Chinese in the lab, they have the keys to almost everything, but their problem is how to communicate. So try to also relate with them. And then what I did when I went to first year, what I did when my taught courses was that anytime somebody is doing an experiment, I'll go and support the person. Either I'll be assisting you, taking data, cleaning your bench and those kind of things. In the process, they saw that I was interested in them. So anything they are doing, they will give me the Chinese version and also help me to translate. I mean, in terms of protocols. So we should also adopt some of these strategies in order to live comfortably with those guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Doc, another question from Olo is saying, hi, Doc, please can I use my publication paper as my thesis and expand on it when they are on the same topic?
Yes, it can be used to. It can be used if PhD the maximum or the minimum requirement is at least having one paper. So if that one paper can cater for chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 2 and chapter 3, better. And then if chapter 4, you can have another experiment, or maybe divide that paper. If the paper is very rich, you may divide it into 3 other sessions, like the chapter 2, the chapter 3, and chapter 4. Thank you.
Okay, Zach, you can put your hand down as we wait for other people to ask questions. Please, you can write your question, or you can raise your hand and I will call you to answer any question that you have on the presentation that Doc has given to us this evening in Ghana, in China, and afternoon in China. Please keep your questions coming as we still have more time to ask any relevant questions that we want to ask him on how to write our thesis as in the field of science. Those of us studying science, how do we go about thesis? Any question that you have, please ask the question now as he is ready to share or give us an idea on how to go about it from the start to the end. I think we have 35 minutes more, so we can still ask questions. Please, more questions? More questions.
Maybe whilst some are
waiting, okay,
questions, I must add that in your thesis, in order to attract the attention of your professor and then your the reviewers, you should do a lot of editing. You should check, read through, proofread, if possible, give to your peers, give to your friends to proofread for you. Give to your peers to proofread for you. Maybe whilst we are waiting for others, let me see if I can demonstrate.
So Doc, okay, Doc, finish. You can finish.
Okay, please finish. Let the person come up.
Saying, okay, the question is it advisable to use your master thesis proposal to apply for PhD? Doc, is it advisable to use your master thesis proposal to apply for PhD from Divine President?
Yes, it's allowed, but you should make sure your PhD is very convincing enough to get somebody's funding, you know. So what I would say, your proposal for PhD admission is not a must that is a topic you are going to work on, you know. So you can use, let me add, you can use that for admission purpose, because normally when you join any lab, it's the professor who will dictate the kind of work that you do, you know. So you can use that of your PhD, MSc or master's thesis for admission purpose. Thank you.
Okay, Doc, another question. How easy is it to study PhD without experience in conducting experiments? How easy it is to study PhD without experience in conducting experiments?
Thank you very much. Those of us coming from Ghana in the sciences, most people completed their masters without much experience in the lab. But for China, everything is at your disposal. You may do the experiment 10 times. If you fail, nobody will beat you. Only that you should tread consciously. Because I remember when I went to first year, I had no experience in tissue culture. That is transgenics. So what I used to do, our lab, we had a tissue culture room, or our center, we had tissue culture room. So what I used to do was that after following my Chinese friends and other international students in the lab, I started setting up my own experiment. At times, it's difficult for you to get a bench during daytime. So I used to work around 2 a.m. That time nobody is in the lab. You can do. You may do, you may miss out, you may do again, you know. So you should develop a strategy. Have love for the thing that you are doing, for the things that you are doing, the experiments that you are doing. Have control over them. It's always better you do your own thing. If you do your own thing, you have control over. If somebody question you, why did you get this? In terms of means separation, you had this A, you had this B, but you had this D. You can explain clearly because you saw the experiment running. So everything starts with a step. Rome was not built in a day. So we need to prepare ourselves to face the realities in our labs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And Doc, those of us writing the sciences, we know it is doing the lab work and writing the thesis. So the question is, when do I have to start writing my thesis work as I'm doing the lab work? Should I write a step by step as I'm doing the experiment and write the thesis, or finish with the lab work before starting with the thesis writing?
Thank you very much. For that one, as I said, you should have a blueprint of your intentions. You should have a blueprint of your intentions. So you need to have the proposal. If your proposal is ready, it's just a matter of updating. So you can update your proposal anytime you want. But I must add, I said you need to write your methodology ahead before the start of your work, so that it will guide you. And the introduction, you can do them alongside the experiment. You can do the writing alongside the experiment, or you can target publishing your papers, because China with PhD or even masters, if you don't publish paper, you can't graduate. So your focus should be on the paper. If you publish a paper, the expanding of a thesis is not difficult. The most important, the part that is somehow difficult is the literature review, the chapter 1. So in this case, the papers you are reading, you can adopt the strategy that I used, and then be summarizing the papers you are reading. And then from there, you'll be able to make progress when the time, because I remember I used less than 1 month to finish my full thesis, because all the papers I had published, even some of the papers, my professor didn't allow me to add them to the thesis, because he said I had so many papers that if I want to add, the volume of thesis would be too big. So I just use 3 of them to get chapter 2, chapter 4, and then chapter 5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doc. As we are still waiting for questions, we have 30 or 29 minutes more. And as we're waiting for more questions, if you have other things that, Doc, you want to add before questions come, you can go on and add. Yeah.
Yes. So I was saying that we need to learn to use some of these tools. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
So here, if you want to insert a figure, you go to insert figure. Okay, insert picture. So you can put your picture here. You can insert whatever picture that you have here. So let's say if we want to insert a picture from this folder. Let's say if you want to insert a picture from this folder, you want to insert this picture. You see here, you can see. So this is my picture. I have inserted. If it's too big, I can reduce. You see, the quality is still the same. So
yes,
you can do some of these things to improve your writing skill. Also, we have another option here, reference. And that reference, if you want to number, give a caption for your figure. So maybe this figure is labeled this. Maybe this is a title. I want to give a number. You can go to insert caption. Okay, insert caption. So here, I want to capture it as table. Sorry, I want to capture it as figure. But if I don't want figure 1, I can rename. So I can give, because in China, the chapter you are writing, the chapter determines the reference number or the table number. So if I'm writing in chapter 2, then chapter 2. So this one will be my figure. So I want to cite this figure here. Oh, why? I want to cite this figure here. You see, it has cited. Please, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, yes, we can see. Yes, please.
Yes, so here you can equally insert another figure. You can equally insert another figure. If you want to insert, let's say you want to insert this figure. You have inserted. So it's here. So you can go to review, reference, and then you can go insert caption. Sorry, let's put the title of this figure. We can put here, insert. So here, 2. So we are done. So assuming you have finished your work and you want to write your list of tables or your list of figures, you can just go here, list of figures. You can just go here and then insert figures. Okay, so you can insert your figure, insert. You see, they have inserted with the references. So as you do, if the page numbers are going to change, you can just update. Okay, so some of these things are the basic skills that you need in order for you to, so you can just select update, and then you can update. So you see that it has changed the page numbers. So some of these things are some of the basic skills that we need in order to be very efficient in our writing, because we don't have much time. As I said, if you delay beyond 4 years, you may have to pay your fees yourself. Thank you. So whilst we are waiting for others, if there are other things we can also talk about.
Okay. Yeah, Doc, you can continue as we don't have any question now.
Okay, so just as I was doing, if you have a table, let's say you have a table. Let me see if I can get a table quickly. Let me see if I can get a table quickly so that we can add. So I can go back. I can go back to my figure. I can go back to my figure. Please, can you see my screen? Very good. Can you see my screen?
Please, Mike, please mute your mic.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes, so
Yeah,
here, so you have seen the legend, sorry, the superscript. What is the meaning of sample? So here will be superscript. Here. So here gives the meaning of A, E. A and E means wild type. T-alone, E, EB means overexpression line. C and K means knockout lines. L means leaf, R means root. So here I've defined them. You see, the total map, don't assume that somebody will understand what you have written. So you try to give footers. So the A, the B means those in parentheses represent ratio of the total mapped to the total clean reads per sample. This is a result from transcriptomics. So when you pick this table, somebody should be able to understand. So you can follow the same to give your table numbers. table numbers. So you can go insert caption, reference, insert caption. So you can go, you want figure, you want table, you don't want figure. So the same way you want table, you want figure, you want the table 2-1, table 2-1. So you leave it. So you can, oh, sorry. So you can cite, you can use that one. You can delete this row so that you can put your figure. You can put your table title at the top. So figure, table, insert, caption, table here, you can insert. You see, so here you can change this one. You can change this by going here, modify. You can go here. You can change the caption to whatever format that you want. You see, so you can change it any way that you want. You can change. Okay, so modify. You can modify here, and then so that it will become a common kind of thing that you want to do. You want to avoid italics, and then maybe you want to use font size 12. You want to use New Times Roman times New Roman. Maybe you want to bold all those things. So you see, so it has been done. So you can use those things, and then when you finish, if you want to create list of tables, you can just create them here. List of tables. So reference, insert table or figure is table, so you can insert. You see, so with this, as you move along, you don't need to go and waste your time to check the page number of table 2.1 or table 2-1 and the rest. No need. You can just be writing, and when you finish, you just update. Likewise, the referencing, the table of content. You can also practice table of content from here, so that at the end of the day, everything will be completed when you finish your writing. Are some people having some questions?
Yes. Frank, you can ask your question. Frank, Hangzhou Secretary, you can ask your question. Frank, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You can ask your question now.
All right, thank you very much, Doug. Doug, I want to know, how do I get an updated version of an old literature? You made mention that literature should not be too old. So how do I get the updated version of an old literature? Thank you.
As welcome. I mentioned that some references are classic. You cannot change them. Let's say, I know, Frank, you are doing something in relation to education, so more or less social science. So experiential learning, maybe there might be a model that somebody has proposed. Maybe if that person proposed that model somewhere in 1935, you cannot go and change it now because if nobody has revised or nobody has suggested an improved version, you have to use the old one. But there are some works that people, maybe let's say education systems in Ghana. If education systems in Ghana, it was referenced somewhere in 2020, in 2000. By all means, there have been a revision of education structures in Ghana or wherever. So you need to search for the recent update and use that one against that of the old one. Thank you.
Okay, please follow up questions. Most of the time we also get information from newspapers and other stuff. So how do I reference information from newspaper?
You can reference probably with the publishing house. Let's say if it's very graphic, We can cite very graphic. What is the date? The date that they issued. Maybe very graphic 2020, 14th October 2020 editions. And then you code the page numbers. You code probably the page number. I think that one should be enough. But situations where you can also get it from online, you can also add the link to it. But this, you have to do them manually in the referencing software. Okay?
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
So just as I was saying, let me see if I have my referencing software is open. Maybe whilst we are waiting for others. Yes, this is my EndNote.
Okay.
This is my EndNote. Have you seen? I'm now writing a book chapter. You can see from my title, book chapter, GBS impulses. Okay, so you can see the references I'm using, 176. So those 176, if I want to check this paper, if I want to check any of the papers, you can see I have attached the PDF. Some of them I have not done yet. I add as at when I'm reviewing those papers. So you can see from here, if it's this paper that I want to, in case it's this paper I want to read, you can see the attachment. You can see the attachment. So I can also read the attachment from the referencing software. Okay. So it makes life a bit easier. It makes life a bit easier. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Doc, somebody is having a question.
Yes.
Can you recommend the best tool for paraphrasing? Can you recommend a best tool for paraphrasing?
Paraphrasing, we have a software. There's a software somebody was promoting, but for me, at times I don't trust those software. You should do everything manual because all the software, they have their limitations, like the Turnitin that I'll be sharing with the students in Nigeria. US, some of the universities don't accept results from Turnitin. They said it only gives similarity index. It does not give the actual plagiarism score. But this one is subject to debate, you know. So paraphrasing, there are software. Some people may go in for Grammarly. There are different software, but I don't use, so I cannot recommend because something I've not used and I don't have experience, you know. Though I have some of them. I have some of the accounts, but at times when you do and you run, you see that it has not changed anything. It's just almost the same. But the paraphrasing, if you want to do it manual, what I do with paraphrasing is that I use synonyms. If the person use importance, I can use essential, vital, useful. You know, some of these strategies, it will help you to reduce the similarity score. But the idea will be the same. But the idea is not your idea. So when you finish, reference the source. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. I think we will wait for 2 more questions, if any. 2 more questions. We'll take 2 more questions, then we'll bring the program to an end. We still have about 13 minutes more. So if anybody is having a question, 2 more questions.
Mr. Moderator, before we end.
Okay, somebody is having a question.
Okay.
Okay, Hodge, your hand is up. You can ask your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I want to say it's not really a question. I just want to appreciate that so much. I'm Hodge, a Liberian, and I've been monitoring the show. And we're very educated, a lot of things that I learned. So I just want to say I appreciate the presentation a lot. I want to say thank you. That's all, but I don't have a question. But all of the questions and all of the doubt that I had, it have been addressed. So nothing else I have to say, but just say thank you for the presentation. Okay. It was very, very beneficial to me.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, Hodge, thank you very much for joining. And I might say that we're very grateful, the Ghanaian community, for joining us. And tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we still have programs, and you're invited. You can also invite your friends to join, and it will be very, very important for you as you join, and you learn a lot from our doctors who are yet to give their presentation. Thank you very much, Hodge.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, before we end, I'll be grateful if 2 or 3 people can share the lessons they have learned today, and then how you our lessons have been, so that it will help us shape our presentation skills and other things going.
Okay, so to that effect, as Doctor is saying, if anybody is having any comments to make, anything good or bad, so that we can address. For me, I learned a lot on how to write our objectives from the general to the specific. You made mention of the use of the SMART method, which is very, very important. And I think it is something that you mentioned that I saw that, well, it's very, very good. And I really appreciate that. That's telling us that. Hello, please, mute your mic. Hello, please mute your mic. Please, if anybody is having any comment to make on the presentations made by Dr. Benjamin Kakari, you can raise your hand, and if a question or you have any comments to make, you can make it as in the comment section, or you raise your hand and I'll call you to ask. Zach, your hand is up. You can ask your question. Hello, Zach. Zach, are you there?
Yes,
Zach.
yes.
Yeah, we're listening to you.
Actually, I've asked 2 questions already. It's not a question. I just want to say this presentation was really great, and I have learned about the SPQR approach or strategy, which I think is very useful. And then I also learned more about the EndNote, though I use it, but I didn't have much knowledge about how to talk about the figures and the tables, how to insert them. And I think being part of this program, I've been able to learn a lot today. And then also I have the motivation to be able to learn more from other people. Even if one doesn't have any experience in doing something, then we can learn from many people and learn by ourselves. So I think this presentation was really helpful to me. Thanks, Doc.
Okay, thank you very much, Zach. Olo, your hands is up. OLO, your hands is up. You can ask your question or make your comment. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Benjamin.
Hi.
I want to say thank you so much. I actually joined in very, very late, like 6:20. I didn't know there was something like this going on, so I joined in late. But I think I have learned so much.
Are you in Hangzhou? Are you in Hangzhou chapter?
No. I mean now.
Please go on. Please go on.
Yeah. So I have actually learned so much. I'm a master's student. I had no knowledge on the EndNotes, but today is my first time, and how to use it to name your tables and figures. Yeah, I think it's going to be helpful. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the lessons.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Gloria Akpabla, your hand is up. You can ask your question. Gloria.
I just wanted to give a remark. I enjoyed this session because, okay, well, let me give my takeaway. One thing is foresight and planning. And I could see that in how you were explaining how we need to be prepared. Look at when you're going to leave, break your plans up yearly, half a year, and even down to the month. And I really picked that up because I know that would help us, and that will keep you on track. It'll keep you accountable, and you'll also be able to get your work done on time. I think the speaker is well versed in this field and very, very knowledgeable. And so with thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And we hope that, you know, when we call upon you next year, you would be available to even pour out more. Thank you.
I'm always available.
Okay. Okay, Frank. Frank, you can ask. You can make your comment, Frank.
All right, thank you very much. Before I go on with my question, let me indicate that Gloria Akpabra is our National Academic Committee Chair. So just a quick one, or sending. Doc, thank you very much for the presentation. Really, even though I'm not a science student, but because of the brand, I've enjoyed this presentation so much, and I think that it's going to help me as I climb higher. May God richly bless you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're taking the last comment from Linda K. Linda K, your hand is up. You can ask your question or make your comment.
Oh, okay. Hello. Doc, thank you for your presentation. Mine is a kind of a clarification.
Okay.
Two people already talked about the using the reference to for tables and other things, because I was thinking that was from Word, not
Yes,
the reference.
From Word. I intend clarifying at the end. So it's in the Word that I think.
Okay. So that was it. But thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, okay, you're welcome. You're welcome. Doc, looking at the questions and comments coming from our participants for today, and it tells that you have given us much insightful education on how to write our thesis in the field of sciences, so those of us doing science, and really appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much. We say thank you for giving us this insightful education. At this time, you will call upon Madam Linda Afule, Women's Commissioner, Honorable. Okay.
Please let me
Okay, Doug, you can make your last comment. Doug, you can make your last comment then. Okay.
Yes, I want to thank the organizers for reaching me and making it possible for me to contribute. I'm always available if there are some challenges that one may need my special attention, because I was giving freely, so freely I'll give, you know, so that we all learn to reach wherever we want to reach to in the nearest future. We can all contribute to the development of Ghana. Thank you to everyone for participating. And then in case in the course of my presentation, maybe I use some expression that may be offensive to anyone, I'm sorry. Going into the future, we hope to improve ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. We really appreciate it. Madam Linda Afule, Women Commissioner, Honorable, if you're around, please give us the vote of thanks. Linda Afule, Women's Commissioner, please, are you there?
Okay. I think Ucom is not here. Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. If Ucom is not there, I think Linda Maya, you can be in her shoes and give us the vote of thanks.
Wearing the shoes of Ucom right now. We give the greatest thanks, greatest vote of thanks to the Almighty God for making it possible and making it a success. And from the comments from the participants, you can see that it's been a great success. We have achieved our goal by educating our people. People have been educated. They did not just join, but they have gotten the education we intended for them. So we are grateful and most grateful to the Most High God. We're also very grateful to our speaker for tonight for making our members get value for their time they've spent here. We are very grateful to you. This shows that you really prepared. You took your valuable time to prepare for us. We are very grateful. God richly bless you. And we are also grateful to the organizers, all the executive committee body, and then all participants here. You are most honorable, and we really appreciate you for coming, because you could see that the speaker did a lot of work, and that if you did not come, it would have gone waste. So we appreciate each and every one of you, and we say that the subsequent ones to please make it a time and a point to be here, and you will not regret. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Maya, Madam. Now we call on Frank Ejay. Honorable Chair, we call upon you to give us the closing prayer. Then after that, we have the informal section. If you have anything we can discuss with Doc before, like 5 minutes before he goes. Okay, so Honorable Frank, Mr. Chair,
Okay,
give
thank
us
you
the
very much.
closing
But
prayer.
before we pray, let me quickly acknowledge the presence of the National Executive's President and officers from the National Academic Committee, most especially the chairperson of the National Academic Committee. We are very, very grateful for that. Please, shall we pray? Everlasting Father, we thank you for this evening. We started with you and we are ending with you. It's our prayer that whatever we have learned, may you help us to retain it. We commit our facilitator unto your care. May you bless him, bless his family, bless the hands of his work. May you help him that everything that he's doing will progress. As we're living here, we are not leaving your presence. Continue to protect and guide us so that tomorrow, when we meet again like this, we shall give you thanks. We pray in the name of God the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the program, and my name is John Isaac, a master's student from Shaoxing University. Thank you very much for taking your time and spending. I think your time you spent here has not been wasted at all, looking at what we've learned. Thank you very much. We are in the informal section. If you have anything to ask Doc or discuss anything, we are allowed to do that for the next 5 minutes before Doc leaves us. Thank you very much.
Please, I have shared the PPT on the page on the group chat now, so anyone who wants can download.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much, Doc. We really appreciate it.
Okay.
So, Doc, many of us will be linking up behind. I think we saw your number and we'll take note of that, and we'll be communicating with you and see for any clarification and assistance that we will need. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so bye-bye to everybody. Good evening to everybody in China, and good evening to those, good afternoon to those of us joining from Ghana. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.